Look at this concrete jungle. This is Mexico City today. 22 million people. Noise, smog, endless traffic. One of the largest, most chaotic cities on Earth. But close your eyes. Imagine the noise fading. The concrete dissolving. The asphalt peeling back like old skin. Now imagine that same ground covered in water. Cool, clear blue water stretching in every direction. It is November 8th, 1519. You are floating over and there it is, Tenochtitlan, the city that made hardened Spanish conquistadors stop and ask each other if they were dreaming. A metropolis floating in the middle of a massive lake. Gleaming white under the Mexican sun, it wasn't just a city, it was an impossible engineering achievement. With around 200,000 people, it was bigger than London at the time, cleaner than Paris. A white jewel set in azure waters, connected to the mainland by 3 great causeways wide enough for 10 men to walk side by side. When Bernal Diaz del Castillo found words, he wrote that it was like the enchantments in the legend of Amadis. They called it the Venice of the New World. But Venice was a village compared to this. 2 years later, it would be gone. Rubble, ash, silence. But today, we are going to walk through it, stone by stone, canal by canal. Welcome to the capital of the Aztec Empire, the city the world forgot. Buried under the city that replaced it. We enter through the wall of serpents. Run your hand along it. Each stone serpent carved with obsessive detail. This wall doesn't just mark a boundary, it announces that you are leaving the human world and entering something else entirely. Step carefully. This isn't just a city center. To the Mexica, this is the center of the universe. The axis mundi, the navel of the world. The ground beneath your feet is considered sacred skin. Now look up. That is the Templo Mayor. 90 feet of stone rising in steep terraces, toward a sky that seems closer here than anywhere else. It dominates everything. You can see it from miles away on the lake, a mountain that man built when no mountain existed. But here's what most people don't know. It's not one temple, it's 2, fused into one structure. The left side, painted blue, belongs to Tlaloc, the god of rain and water. The right side, painted red, belongs to Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun. Life and death, standing shoulder to shoulder, water and blood. That tension is the entire Aztec worldview, compressed into architecture, and what you see is only the current skin. Inside, like Russian nesting dolls, are 6 older temples. Every time a new emperor rose to power, he didn't demolish the old temple, he encased it, built a new layer over it. The Templo Mayor is a geological record of the empire's ambition, each dynasty buried inside the next. Let's climb. The stairs are steep by design. The angle forces your body to bow forward. Even kings approach the gods with their heads down. At the top, the air changes. Copal incense, thick and sweet. And underneath it, something else. Iron. The smell of blood baked into stone by decades of sun. The chacmul reclines beside the altar, a stone figure, a flat dish on its stomach waiting. The Aztecs believed the sun required nourishment to move across the sky. Without it, the 5th sun, our world, would stop. The offering wasn't cruelty, it was maintenance. The price of keeping the world alive for another day. Look down and to your right. The Great Ball Court. The game used a solid rubber ball, moved only by hips, knees, and elbows. Never the hands. Never the feet. The ball represented the sun. The court was the horizon. In certain ritual contexts, scholars believe the captain of the winning team may have been sacrificed, sent to the gods, at the peak of glory. Death as the ultimate honor, not punishment. And there, the Tezempantli, a wooden rack of thousands of skulls. To European eyes, a nightmare. To the Mexica, a record. Proof that the empire had honored its cosmic obligations. The gods had been paid. The sun would rise tomorrow. See those warriors in full feathered regalia. Eagle Knights. The elite warrior class. Their measure of excellence wasn't killing, it was capturing enemies alive for ritual offering. Killing was easy. Capturing took skill. What struck every Spanish soldier who wrote about this plaza was not the blood. It was the silence. And the cleanliness. 1,000 dedicated sweepers maintained these stones before dawn every day. While the streets of Madrid were rivers of filth in 1519, the Templo Mayor precinct was immaculate. In the corner lies the sunstone. You know it as the Aztec calendar, but it isn't a calendar. It's a cosmological diagram. At its center, the face of the fifth sun. Around it, the 4 previous worlds, each destroyed in a different catastrophe. The Mexica didn't see history as progress. They saw it as a cycle of creation and destruction. And they lived with the bone-deep awareness that their world would end to. The only question was when, and whether they had done enough to delay it. As the sun touches the western mountains, conch shells blow from the top of the Templo Mayor. A sound so deep, it vibrates in your chest. The whole city seems to pause and breathe. Night is coming. But the city doesn't sleep. Leave the sacred precinct. Follow the northern causeway toward Tlatelolco. Before you even arrive, you hear it. A hum, a roar, almost. The sound of 60,000 human transactions happening simultaneously. Tlatelolco Market. The largest market in the Americas. Hernan Cortes himself, not a man given to admiration of his enemies, wrote to the King of Spain that he had never seen such a thing, and that the markets of Constantinople and Rome were nothing by comparison. Every product of the empire flows through here. Jade from the southern highlands, jaguar pelts from the deep jungle, obsidian blades so sharp they split a single hair, and above all, cacao beans. Cacao was money. A rabbit cost about 30 beans, a turkey egg, 3. Inflation had a natural ceiling. Whenever beans got too cheap, you simply drank the surplus, smell the air. Corn being ground on stone, constant as a heartbeat. Tamales steaming in banana leaves, and those flat green cakes on the racks. Algae from the lake, dried into protein-dense cakes. 5 centuries before the modern health industry discovered it. See those men sitting in the shade at regular intervals. Judges, if a merchant is caught using false weights, they don't fine him. They destroy his stall and banish him permanently. Commerce here runs on enforced honesty. We leave by canoe. The primary streets of Tenochtitlan are water. Goods that in a European city would require horses and wagons move here by paddle and current. Silently, effortlessly. Look at those rectangular green islands across the lake. Those aren't natural. They are chinampas, floating gardens. The Mexica built them by layering mud and vegetation onto reed mats anchored to the lakebed. With willow trees locking everything in place, they created land where there was only water up to 7 harvests per year. Soil perpetually enriched by lake sediment, never depleted. While European farmers rested their fields every other year, the Chinampas produced without pause. A city of 200,000 fed itself from artificial islands. Now let's talk about how ordinary people actually lived here. A typical Mexica household was a compound rooms around a central courtyard, shared by an extended family. Each household had a temazcal, a stone sweat bath used for hygiene and healing. The Mexica bathed daily. When Spanish soldiers arrived, men who bathed perhaps a few times a year by European standards, the Mexica found their smell genuinely disturbing. In 16th century Spain, frequent bathing was viewed with suspicion. In Tenochtitlan, it was simply how civilized people lived. Children were educated, all of them. The Comicac for nobles, focused on astronomy and governance. The Telpochcali for everyone else, focused on citizenship and craft. Universal education in 1519, women held recognized legal status. They could own property, bring cases before judges, operate market stalls. Now step back. High above the lake, do you see that long line cutting across the water? The dike of Nezahualcóyotl, 10 miles of stone and timber. It separated the salty northern lake from the fresh southern waters surrounding Tenochtitlan, and functioned as a flood control system. Gates could be opened or closed to regulate water levels during the rainy season. Built entirely without metal tools, through accumulated knowledge passed between generations. And the aqueduct? 2 parallel stone channels from the springs of Chapultepec forest to miles across open water into the city. When one needed cleaning, workers opened the other. The water supply never stopped. Not for a single day. The waste management system was equally brilliant. Human waste was collected, carried by boat, and applied to the chinampas as fertilizer. The city's waste became the city's food. A closed biological loop. The city didn't smell of rot. Spanish accounts, written by men with no incentive to flatter their enemies, described it as smelling of flowers. At night, braziers lit the causeways. You could walk 3 miles across the lake without a torch. It was, by almost any measure, a more livable city than any in Europe at the time, and it was about to be destroyed. Courts arrived with roughly 500 soldiers, 16 horses, and a handful of cannons. Against an empire of millions, those numbers were absurd. But he found powerful allies, the Tlaxcalans, who had fought the Mexica for generations. The coalition that besieged Tenochtitlan numbered in the tens of thousands. This was not a conquest by 500 Spaniards. It was a civil war that Spaniards led. The circumstances of Moctezuma's death remain contested. The Spanish claimed his own people stoned him. Indigenous accounts suggest the Spanish killed him when he was no longer useful. What is certain is that his death in June 1520 ended any possibility of accommodation. The new emperor, Cuauhtémoc, prepared for total war. The siege lasted 93 days. Courts cut the aqueducts first. Without fresh water, the population drank from the brackish lake. He blockaded the causeways. The city slowly starved. The last defenders chewed the leather of their own shields. Smallpox had arrived before any of this. The virus, unknown in the Americas before 1519, spread through a population with zero immunity, killing warriors, priests, engineers, administrators. By some estimates, between a third and half the population was already dead before the final battle began. On August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc was captured, trying to escape by canoe. The city fell. What followed was not occupation, it was erasure. The Spanish dismantled the Templo Mayor stone by stone, and used those very stones to build their cathedral, which still stands in the Zócalo today. They filled the canals with rubble. They drained the lake to build streets for horses and European foundations. It was an enormous ecological miscalculation. The Mexica had understood that this valley was a lake basin. They built with water. The Spanish built against it. Without the lake, the basin dried out. The soft, ancient lake bed, now drained and compressed under millions of tons of concrete, subsides unevenly. Mexico City sinks up to 50 centimeters per year in some areas. The Metropolitan Cathedral tilts visibly to the naked eye. The lake is reclaiming its territory through the ground itself. In 1978, electricity workers digging a trench beside the cathedral struck a carved stone. Disc 8 feet across, the moon goddess coils. The Templo Mayor had been there the whole time, sleeping beneath the street. Excavated over the following years, it sits open today in the center of Mexico City. The ancient below the modern. The lake beneath both. Look at the Mexican flag. An eagle on a cactus, a snake in its beak. That image comes directly from the founding myth of Tenochtitlan. The country calls itself Mexico. From Mexico, the memory didn't die. It went underground. Go to Xochimilco today. The canals there are the last surviving fragment of the Chinampa system, touristified now, noisy with colorful boats. A shadow, but look at the geometry of those green islands between the canals. The same engineering, built so well, it survived 500 years after everything above it was destroyed. Walk through the cathedral tilts above you. The ruins of the Templo Mayor sit exposed in the corner. 3 layers of history visible simultaneously. If you stand still on a quiet morning, there's a faint vibration in the stone underfoot. Whether it's the city settling or the lake pushing back is a question you have to answer for yourself. What we buried here wasn't just a city. It was a complete alternative model, one that worked with its environment instead of against it. That built abundance from a lake, rather than by conquering distant territories. That educated every child, gave women legal standing, and fed 200,000 people from floating gardens. It wasn't a utopia. The flowery wars were real. The Tempantli was real. But by the measures that actually matter, nutrition, sanitation, education, urban livability, it functioned better than the civilization that destroyed it. We paved over paradise, literally, and the ground under Mexico City sinks a little further every year, reminding us, in the only language geology knows, that some decisions don't stay buried. I'm Ethan, watching the past so we can understand the present. I'll see you in the next era.